What's going on, my friends? Josh Baldwin here. In this video, I wanted to show you guys a video from CBS News that was released last week that covers a speech that President Biden did at the White House. And in this speech, he covers some topics such as how he plans on strengthening and improving the Social Security and Medicare programs. All right, so he sheds some light on this. This is something that a lot of seniors have been having questions about lately. Obviously, with the onset of massive inflation in the last few months, a lot of people are wondering what is going to happen to their Social Security checks next year and how will Medicare Part B and Part D premiums play into that. All right, so let's take a look.
House focused on lowering health care costs and strengthening Medicare and Social Security.
The president was initially scheduled to speak in Florida today, but his trip was canceled due to Hurricane Ian. President Biden discussed falling premiums aimed at decreasing health care costs for millions of Americans. He also denounced congressional Republicans who are seeking to eliminate Medicare and repeal the recently passed Inflation Reduction Act. President Biden ensured the protection of these programs will improve the lives of Americans.
Okay, so now you're going to hear President Biden talk about how he plans on not only keeping these programs around for the foreseeable future, but also how he plans on improving these programs as a whole, how he plans on getting these benefits to seniors that need it most, how he plans on increasing these benefits as seniors deal with the rising costs of goods such as meat and gas and healthcare costs. So all these things are playing a role in the reduction of seniors' purchasing power. And in turn, President Biden plans to address these issues, and the way he does that, he explains in this speech. So let's get back to it.
For the last few years, we've faced some of the most difficult challenges in our history, but we're actually making progress, helping folks get just a little more breathing room. Lowering healthcare costs and strengthening Medicare is a big part of progress that we've been making on inflation, not just with gasoline prices and other progress. It's one of the reasons why I'm so optimistic about America's future.
Joining us now is...
I'm very optimistic about America's future as well. Hopefully President Biden doesn't fall asleep while he's telling us about it. All right, so let's keep watching.
CBS News Chief White House Correspondent Nancy Cordes. Nancy, thanks for joining us. You're right there, President shaking hands behind you. Tell us about, we expected the president to do this. What has propelled him in these remarks today?
Well, we were certainly expecting remarks about Medicare. What we weren't expecting was sort of a political speech that we ended up getting from President Biden at the end there, where he really went after Republicans 6 weeks before the midterm elections for being willing, in some cases, to put Medicare and Social Security on the chopping block, as he put it, because there are some Republicans who have proposed voting on these entitlement programs either every year or every 5 years. He made a full-throated argument here in the Rose Garden that puts these cherished programs at risk. Obviously, Medicare and Social Security, very important to seniors, and as we know, seniors vote. The rest of the speech was
Okay, so that's an important point that he was making with regards to the Senate Republicans that he is currently opposing with regards to this issue. So on one hand, the Senate Republicans no longer see Social Security and Medicare as viable programs and want to put it, quote unquote, on the chopping block. On the other end, Democrats want to keep Social Security and Medicare for the foreseeable future because obviously Democrats care a lot about Social Security. So let's keep watching.
Dedicated to laying out all of the ways that the Inflation Reduction Act, which was passed this summer by Congress, will make prescription drugs cheaper for seniors. For example, next year, the price of insulin will be capped at $35 a month. In 2025, we'll see that cap on prescription drug spending $2,000 a year for seniors. And then in 2026, so we're looking a few years down the road, Medicare will be able for the first time to start negotiating drug prices over a handful of drugs, about 10 drugs to start off with. So that was the case that he was making today, is that while inflation is still raging in this country and people are seeing their prices for all kinds of things go up, that his administration is at the very least trying to bring health care costs down for seniors.
So there you see there that President Biden and his administration is planning to address this issue and hopefully, at the very least, bring down inflation when it comes to healthcare costs for seniors, because that is probably one of the biggest things that are keeping seniors down at this moment financially. The rising costs of inflation, Medicare Part B premiums, prescription drug costs, inpatient care visits, copays, things of that nature. So he plans on reducing those so that seniors have more purchasing power, so that they can go and take that money and spend it elsewhere on things that they really need, such as food. All right, so let's keep watching.
Nancy, I just want to follow up on something that you were saying before. It looked like the president was actually reading from the Republican pamphlet that Senator Rick Scott had put together about cutting some of those entitlement programs. Could you tell from where you were if that was what the president was doing?
That's exactly what he was doing, was sort of waving around this pamphlet that laid out Senator Scott's agenda. And yes, Senator Scott is one of 100 senators, but he's also running the effort this time around to re-elect Republican Senate incumbents. So he has a very prominent role, and it's the reason why the fact that he did this and announced these proposals several months ago kind of has become a headache for the Republican leader of the House, Mitch McConnell, ever since, who knows that this is going to.
Yeah, so Senator Rick Scott is one of the people that is opposing the Biden administration and the efforts to keep Social Security and Medicare on the table. So President Biden, in his speech, actually read from the pamphlet that Senator Rick Scott released on this subject, obviously as a ploy to dispel all the Republicans' plans and to support and to bolster all the Democrats' plans when it comes to Social Security and Medicare.
To factor heavily in, obviously, President Biden's message, the message that is carried forth by other Senate Democratic candidates around the country over the next 6 weeks or so.
You know, this is something that we were discussing earlier, Nancy, that the president would use Republicans' words against them. This is a really important moment, perhaps a political, it's not a political moment, but might become a political moment.
Very, very political moment. All right. So this is probably one of the most political moments that we've had so far. What is going to happen to some of the oldest programs that have been supporting seniors for decades now? All right. Social Security and Medicare are very, very, very important programs to seniors, some of which rely on Social Security as a sole source of income. All right. So this is very, very important. It's definitely a political issue. All right.
Moment for the governor of Florida. So much of the conversation is around midterms happening in 6 weeks. How much does a message like this, at a time like this when all eyes are on this storm, really move the dial for Democrats, for the president's party?
Right. Well, you know, one of the biggest challenges for this White House, certainly, but also for Democratic candidates, is the fact that they are the party in power and inflation is really high right now. And so anything that the president can do to sort of blunt the message that he knows that Republican candidates are putting forth throughout the country about the fact that inflation has gone up under President Biden's watch.
Yeah, so that's kind of the ammo and the support that the Republicans have in their argument against what the Democrats want. The Democrats are currently in power. They control the executive branch. Obviously, the president is a Democrat. They control Congress and they control the Senate. So they have that tripart power right there in order to make changes happen. Since inflation is so high right now, it's been the highest it's been in 40 years, that is being used as a talking point for Republicans who are saying that Democrats are unfit for running this government. They're unfit for running this country, and they don't know what they're doing. They don't know how to get the economy back on track. So everyone is just kind of looking towards Jay Powell and wondering if the Fed is able to take down inflation or reduce inflation with these rate hikes. So obviously that hasn't seemed to have happened so far. This inflation is not transitory. It seems like it's here to stay, or at least not slowing down as fast as it was expecting to be. All right, so let's keep watching.
He's going to do it, and one of the ways that he's trying to do it is to argue that costs may be going up for food, for home heating, rent, you name it, but that his administration is very focused on bringing other costs down. For example, in this speech, he touted the fact that for the first time in 10 years, the monthly premiums for Medicare Part B are actually set to go down rather than up. Now, it's not a big decrease. We're talking about $5 a month. $165 premiums per month will go down to $160. But the president looking for any excuse to argue that he is focused on cost savings, that his administration is focused on cost savings, and that Republicans, if they were to get power in the House and Senate, would look to roll back a lot of the savings that his administration and Democrats in Congress have been able to sign into law over the last couple of years.
Yeah, so President Biden, however minute his reform changes seem to be, he's throwing it out there anyway. He's saying whatever he can before these midterm elections to make sure the Democrats stay in power and that the Senate Republican incumbents don't come to power. All right, so President Biden is saying absolutely anything, no matter how small of a change. A few dollars off of your Medicare Part B premium isn't going to make the biggest difference, obviously, to seniors' wallets. But he's throwing it in there anyway, just to prove the point that healthcare costs are decreasing under his administration and that they are doing stuff to combat inflation and to bring costs down and to help people have more money and relief. All right, so there you have it. That was President Biden's speech at the White House, where he addresses the issues of Social Security and Medicare and whether these programs are still going to exist in the future. Obviously, Senate Republicans have a different plan. They want to get rid of these programs. President Biden came to the White House and discussed not only is he going to keep these programs around for the foreseeable future, but he is also going to make sure that seniors have improved benefits, lowered healthcare costs, and that they have more money available to them, more purchasing power in order to live a happier and healthier life going forward. All right, so I hope you enjoyed that video. I hope you found it helpful. If you did, please leave a like. Comment down below any information you might have about your own Social Security or Medicare benefits. Stay safe out there, stay hustling, and I will talk to you guys in the next video.